Committee. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, please?
So moved.
Supervisor McGowan. Anything? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. All right, that carries. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it right over to Lexi, who I would like to express my thanks for a great job at the auction this weekend. Claudia, I know you're going to talk about that.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, can we back up just
Yes.
one second? Mr. McGowan.
Okay, just kidding, Brad.
Sorry about that.
All right, so I
do that every time.
have a motion by Supervisor Simpson and a second by Supervisor Hogan. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that now carries for real. Thank you, Amanda. Go ahead, Lexi.
Okay, first on the agenda is a resolution request to authorize conveyances of lands offered at the public auction on Saturday, October 17th, 2020. And the auction results are actually attached. You can see the taxes due as well as the sale prices, the bidder, the location, the town.
Do you guys have that in your packet? No, I don't either. It's okay.
Set it up and ask them to attach.
Thank you, Supervisor Simpson. Anyone else? Second on authorizing conveyances of the lands that were sold at the auction.
Claudia?
Yes. Is that a second?
I'll second, but I have something I want to say.
Okay, that's a second by Supervisor Dickinson. Go ahead.
Lexi, what happened with the property in Bolton?
They both sold. There was 2 properties in Bolton.
Well, I know there was an issue with one of them. Was it resolved at all?
I guess that depends on what you consider an issue. I know that I heard from attorney Bruce Carr that he had some concerns on his bid.
Yeah. Maybe that question is better posed to Mary. And Mary, what's the situation with that parcel? I scared her away.
No,
Oh, there she is.
Sorry, wrong button. Sorry. I mean, the status of the parcel is it's in the, I mean, it was bid on, there was a bid, and it's up to you guys whether or not you want to accept that bid. So I don't.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. As you know, we talked about at that special meeting that we had last month. If you guys will recall, we had the court conferences with Judge Afferdew that were required by the chief judge in our district. Otherwise, we normally don't go through that. And there were some parcels brought up to us. All of those people paid, as far as I know, and as far as Attorney Terwilliger and Attorney Cassane have told us, the county's foreclosure proceeding was proper. Everything went through legally. And today we are ready to accept the bids and authorize the conveyances of the properties to the bidders.
Well, one of the buyers, Claudia, is balking. That's what the point was.
I understand that there was a concern from the buyer. If I don't know, I don't know exactly the process for the buyer to get out of their own bid, but I don't think that's what he's looking for. He's looking for the county to reject his bid and essentially give him the property back.
Don't we have a process for someone to renege on their bid and we go to a second bidder?
I'm sure there's a process. I don't think he is exactly wants that. He wants the county to reject his bid and be able to have the property turned back over to the original landowner prior to the proceeding, the foreclosure proceeding.
Why doesn't he just follow the process?
Right. I agree with you. We have a process for this, and this is not on my agenda for today.
I can see that. I didn't. Who was that speaking before you, Claudia?
That was Mr. Moore.
That's me, Dennis.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ryan, what'd you say?
I'm saying that we have to have a process where if somebody doesn't follow through or can't follow through with their bid, we have a second bidder.
Ryan, listen, I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm not saying we should violate that process at all. I just wanted to, I got several phone calls about that piece, and I just wanted to make sure I know exactly what we did and why. That's all.
Okay.
I'm not saying take it off or do
Okay.
anything else.
Okay, thank you Supervisor Dickinson. I appreciate you bringing it up to the committee. I do believe the county went through all of the necessary steps. We didn't do anything incorrectly. I see Attorney Kassane shaking her head that we're fine, so. That's where we are. And we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you, Lexi.
Okay. So next on the action agenda is a resolution request designating the Warren County Auditor to approve New York State real property tax law correction of errors and/or applications for refund. This is pursuant to real property tax laws 554 and 556. This is a continuation. We'll have to do this every year. We did this last year. It's going to kind of become standard procedure.
Thank you, Supervisor Simpson. Second, Supervisor Hogan, thank you. Are there any questions on this? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries. Is that it? Okay. Do you want to give us a little update on how the auction went?
Actually, I was very impressed. I was a little nervous because of the COVID going in, and when we held the auction this year, we had limited number of seating, but when people registered, we actually had them register per town. So whatever property they were interested in, they registered in that town. So they could do it for numerous towns, but it worked out very nice. I took temperatures of everybody coming in. We made them hand sanitize to come in to register, and then every time they came back in, they hand sanitized. We would kick out after each town, and myself and one of the building and grounds employees would go through and sanitize all the chairs in the courthouse, and then we would allow the next town back in. The flow was really good. I'd almost like to consider it again for next year because it really worked so well. You didn't have any distractions. It was really just the people that were interested in that town. So it was really a nice process.
Great, thank you, Lexi. Great. Any public comments on real property before we switch over to the other one?
I have a question before you go to public comments.
Oh, sure. Supervisor Stroud, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Supervisor Bramer. When's the Mullen Building coming down?
We're moving forward. There is, I think it's next week, we have a conference with the judge. And once the conference is over, then they will be able to sign. So we are definitely moving forward, John. Shouldn't be much longer.
All right, great, thank you.
Attorney Kassane, do you want to add anything? Hold on.
Muted.
Better.
There you are.
So we actually had the conference last week. The judge issued the default judgment orally. He asked us to submit a proposed order on e-file. We have done that. He just hasn't signed it yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we are moving forward, Supervisor Stroud.
Great.
Thank you. Don, is he on there?
Yes, we do have a public comment on the auction from a person identified as Nathan Hall. He writes, with regard to Lot 1, Diamond Ridge, Bolton, TMN 213.17-1-8, Stafford Carr McNally has asked that this be taken off. Warren County has the right to disprove sale, and we will pay taxes to return to owner. Only tax that wasn't paid was 2018. It was not abandoned. That's the whole comment.
Thank you. And unless I'm mistaken, that is the parcel that we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And Attorney Hall is from that same firm that we were
Correct.
contacted by. Okay. All right. Any other comments on real property matters before we switch over? All right, I don't see anything. On the environmental concerns side, we just have a couple of discussion items, nothing, no resolutions or anything to move forward today, unless anyone has anything they want to bring up from the floor. But I do want to report back to the committee that the septic inspection at transfer law was discussed at the Water Quality Strategy Committee meeting last week. It was brought there through Chris Belden of the Planning Office, and also with great thanks to Jim Liebram for allowing us to put it on his agenda for that committee, because they already had a presentation that day about the Lake George Escape wetlands restoration project, which was actually really cool. It was a lot more than just the bridge that we got to see at the ribbon cutting that day. They did a lot of really great work there. So anyway, it was discussed. We didn't come to any, finite conclusions because their meeting agenda was pretty full already. But there were some comments about overall, I think that people are interested in using this as a way to protect water quality. There's still some questions about, let me back up, and looking at the county as a way to provide leadership and consolidating some services at the county level for the municipalities that want to opt in. So that was another thing too that I think people were interested in leaving it be an opt-in process. But there's still some questions about, do we want to look at it across the entire county or just particular water bodies? Do we expand the list of water bodies? And do we expand it out, like Supervisor Stroud had mentioned, to the 500 feet if we're going to stick with a particular distance from water bodies? The plan going forward is to have a couple more working group meetings with the people who I've met with before, which includes our realtor friends and some other water quality stakeholders, Lakes Alliances, anyone like that. So if you're interested in being on the water group, let me know. But I would like to have some direction from the committee. If anyone's feeling strongly in a particular way, if we can have a little bit more direction about what to do as far as the water body issue. And I guess I will also bring up that there was a suggestion made at the committee to completely do away with the county's more direct involvement in the process and sort of just pass a law that says you need to have an inspection done at the transfer and leave it up to the realtors to contact the individual third-party certification inspectors and have them do the process without the county really having another layer of approval process in there, which I thought was an interesting concept, kind of like the solid waste rules that we have on the books, but we aren't really following to collect the data. I thought that might be a way that we could do it. We could ask for the inspections to be done and then just turn in the data so that we have some sense of what's going on out there with people's septic systems. And then leave it to the local municipalities that are already doing the septic inspection approval work. Not septic inspection, I'm sorry, septic construction or upgrade approvals.
Ms. Chairwoman,
Yes.
just a little experience from the town of Chester. We do have a septic inspection upon transfer of properties within 200 feet of the shoreline and on the books here in the town of Chester. And it is a bit problematic when it's left just to the realtors to follow through with that. So then enforcement becomes an issue. If one realtor decides to follow the rules and another doesn't, it doesn't have a level playing field for the realtors on the whole process. And how you follow, we would not know at the town level about any changes in property until things have been transferred after, so it's an after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good knowledge of on the ground, how it's working. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
I've also I've been contacted by a couple people trying to sell, on this, the law. Some people have actually brand new systems that were put in prior, and they still have to, that, are approved by the towns in this. What do we have on the books for, the age of a system? Like I said, if it's like a year and a half old and they're, selling the property, they have to go with a full-fledged.
Ours says 3 years.
Supervisor Stroud, yep.
Ours says 3 years. If it's been installed in the last 3 years, then they get an exemption.
Thank you, John. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, so.
Claudia,
Yes, Dennis.
I'd like to respond to that. In my past life, when I was working, which
Uh-huh.
I've been designing septic systems for 40 years. You put a new septic system in, at this point in time, it has absolute minimum expected age of 10 years, if not 20. So this is part of what I disagree with about this transfer law thing. It's much too aggressive for my way of thinking. I would never do that. If somebody spends $20,000 to put a septic system in, it's only 3 years old. I would never. All they need to do is have the engineer that put it in just certify it, that he designed it and met all the standards, and he inspected the installation, and it was installed according to his plans, and that's it. You're done. I don't know why they would make them do something different after 3 years.
Well, Dennis, that's assuming that they were going to, you're saying if they were selling the property within 3 years.
Right.
Our law doesn't make them do it after 3 years unless they're selling the property. And they don't have to, it's not like they have to go and redesign the system. It's only in the initial inspection is just to take a look at the system and make sure it's still functioning.
Didn't sound like what you were saying.
Well, if it's not functioning, then there would be some steps to take after that to make sure it's functioning, which I see as a valuable process to find those septic systems that are not functioning and try to fix them and get them to a functioning state. Not that they have to replace the whole thing necessarily. What did you think that I meant? Because I don't want to have a misunderstanding about what.
I don't either. John, what does your rule say in Queensbury?
About what, Dennis?
You said you had a 3-year thing in
Oh,
Queensbury?
yeah. Well, we have a list of exemptions. And one of them is that if you've had a newest system installed in the last 3 years, you automatically get an exemption from the property transfer inspection.
Okay. I misunderstood what you said. My apologies. I'll go back to sleep.
Okay, all right, good. But no, Dennis, in all seriousness, let's say they put in a new system and then within 3 years they try to sell their property, that's fine, they're good to go. But if they sell their property 5 years later from when they put it in, they're going to have to get the inspection done to make sure it's still functioning properly, which since it's only 5 years old, hopefully it would be, and it wouldn't be a problem.
No, it's not. If they've had an engineer design it, they just need to have them come back and verify it's still working.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a simple thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're on board with that?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments about whether we try to do it within a certain distance from the water bodies? Yes, Supervisor Simpson.
So I attended that meeting also, and I spoke about the fact that the town of Warwick and the town board is actually looking at creating their own septic inspection program. And, we are leaning towards all septic systems rather than saying so many feet from a body of water. I mean, our geography there has a lot of water everywhere. And it just doesn't make sense. I mean, we're there to protect water quality, and whether it's your neighbor's well or your well or a stream or, as I said before, a vernal pool.
Right?
All water quality is important, and so I think we want to look at our own law, administer our own law, and I'm not comfortable telling another town what works for their community.
It would certainly make it more consistent across the board for our realtor community. If it were just all properties, this applies to all properties. They wouldn't have to figure out if they're within 250 feet or 500 or like what's come up with John is that some of the properties in one town or one, over the line in Washington County or something.
What is the footage in Queensbury?
You guys have a
Yeah.
water district where it applies.
What do we have, John? 250 feet?
No, if I may, Mrs. Chairman.
Yes.
We have waterfront residential zone, so any property within or partially within that zone is subject to the property transfer law. So we go by zone. I had to mention that a common standard in any event for CSC, for a CEA, critical environmental area, is 500 feet. That may be better in some towns, it may not be. I put it out there as a suggestion. But in addition to everything, I talked to our inspector, Dave Hatton. Of those septic systems that have been inspected upon property transfer, 70 to 80% of them have needed some kind of repair. So there have been upgrades to almost 80% of the systems that have been inspected. And so if you're worried about water quality, this has made a big difference already.
And John, could you speak to the Glen Lake Association's experience with what's happening there and their water quality?
Well, they're also subject to, because they're waterfront residential, they're also subject to the property transfer law. But if you're referring to the environmental review and assessment that they have started, or at least they've done the RFP for those interested parties. Now they have to do an RFP for financing the study. They're going to do a Glen Lake action study. So
I thought they were saying that they were already seeing some improvements in their water quality as a result of septic systems.
that was the Bay, Dunham's Bay, North Queensbury wastewater disposal district. That was, their district has already seen upgrades in the water quality adjacent to systems that have been replaced. That was Dunham's Bay.
Okay, thank you. Good, that's good. All right, anybody else? Gene?
You don't want to hear my opinion, thanks.
Okay. Well, if we were to leave it as an opt-in, would that be okay with you?
No, I'll make a comment. The only thing I feel like town Lake Luzerne, people are half a mile from the lakes and the Hudson River and stuff. You make it tough for them to sell properties, and it's tough enough to sell properties today. Yes, close to the lakes, I got no problem. The 500 feet is good, but I look at my property. I got 14 acres of land that my business is on. I'm a half a mile from the lake and half a mile from the Hudson River. And if I want to sell my business, I have septic tanks. If I take care of them every year, they get pumped and cleaned and everything. I've been doing that for, one of them is 30 years old and it still works perfect. But when I built the building, I made water and laundry go to a different tank, not the septic.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes them last longer, in my opinion.
Right.
Take care of them.
Right. Well, if you've been responsible and taking care of it, it shouldn't be that much of a burden to inspect it. But we know there are systems out there where people don't even know where they're located.
And that I agree, but we have that in our town too. Some of the projects that were built in the forties and fifties, they still have 55-gallon drums in the ground.
Yeah. Supervisor McGowan, did you want to say something?
I will have to say thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those drums are probably, the ground's just probably hardened around them. Those drums got to be gone. by now.
Believe it or not, I had a $100,000 grant 5 years ago to have septic tests and protect them on the lake. Only 4 people out of 100 properties gave us permission to go on their property.
Wow.
Think about that.
Well, on the footage, 500 feet's a lot. Down at Queensbury with the zones, I think that's a good idea. But we also like some of the areas on the lake, it's nothing but a rock ledge all the way down. You have basically your topsoil and some tree roots. And underneath that, those tree roots go down into the cracks of the rock. So, I think it really concerns, I don't know how, Horicon is, but with all the body of waters, you have a lot of rocks, but Stony Creek, is down on the riverbed, they have more sand, so I don't know. That's a tough one. But it's really, the topography.
Supervisor Simpson and then Dickinson.
You're onto something there, Brad, because there is a diverse, Warren County has diverse conditions. You've got sand, you got different soils, you got different conditions in each community. You also have the differences between the population. We're talking about a septic law that should be done, transparently and in front of the public. And most of my population, a good portion of my population, is not in town now and won't be till spring. So that is kind of concerning to me that I'm not able to communicate with those people who represent probably 70%. I want to say 68% of the homeowners or the property owners in the town of Oregon live on some type of body of water. We have the East Shore of Stream Lake, which is very important. We also have, we're blessed with water in Oregon. Beautiful water. So I took the initiative to say, hey, we've got to do what's right for the town of Oregon. It's very difficult for me to have those conversations with 19 other supervisors that represent towns that have different conditions. It's a really complicated issue. So I want to take this lead in the town of Oregon rather than Warren County. I think we have the Adirondack Park Agency we deal with. We deal with septic systems, variances, all sorts of approvals monthly at the town of Oregon, and they involve engineers. So I want an easy to understand program for anybody within my community that I represent to understand and be on board with. And I think I can accomplish that at the town level much easier than I can here.
Supervisor Dickinson, yes.
I agree with what Matt just said. In Lake George, we've split it right in half, and basically half the town that's on the shores of Lake George, we are extremely interested in resolving their sewer issues. The other half is like Matt said, it's removed from the lake. Most of them are on secondary and tertiary tributaries. It'll take a month to get from their property to the lake. So we're not that concerned about them. And a lot of them are in sandy areas. And I agree with Matt. I think this is more a home rule thing than anything else. We in each town know what's going on. We know our town and the geography and the geology, and I appreciate the effort, but I'm really not interested in having the county come in and tell me what to do in Lake George.
You made that very clear. You've made that clear over repeatedly. I hear you.
I just want to make sure you didn't forget.
No, I didn't forget. But you should know that in the community, there is support for some sort of consistency across the county. And that when we had the presentation from Connor Gillis about a year ago now, that was the Southern Adirondack Realtors survey of people, property owners. Property owners were, a majority of them were in support of some sort of septic inspection law. And their support for that was even more when they understood that it was for a water quality protection purpose. So while I fully understand that you guys are dealing with people who are out of town right now and there's no rush to do it, I do think there's value in trying to provide some consistency, even if it's only to say for those towns who want to opt in, here it is. And maybe it's only to say, you know, send us in the inspection certification or report or whatever that you got from your own third party inspector. And that's it. And the county doesn't have any further oversight over it. Okay, I don't see any further hands. So we're going to leave that. Let me know offline if you want to be involved in working groups going forward. Ha, Brad. On the Zero Waste Committee, I just wanted to put that on there as sort of a pending item, but I think if Kevin Hages is still around, I'd like him to give us a little update on where we are with the county solid waste management plan. So I know we are moving forward. I see you. Thank you, Kevin.
I'm still here. I need my lunch.
Sorry for interrupting your lunch.
Fairly quick update. We've received the final draft from the consultant that included all the comments, questions received as part of the public meeting, as well as the responsive summary to those questions, comments. I'm doing my last review this week, and probably by Friday I will have that sent off to New York State DEC to get their approval on the draft plan.
Okay, and you did, I saw that you sent an email out summarizing some of the changes that you made. Maybe
Yep.
I will put that in a format that we can send to the committee.
Okay.
Did you already send us the final version that's going to the?
I haven't sent the final version of the local solid waste management plan to everybody. I'm doing my final review on it first, and then the next step would be for me to send it to New York State DEC for either any more comments or approval.
Okay, can you just make sure that you send that to the committee too, please? When you
Absolutely.
send it to DEC. Thanks. And then I know last time it took some time for DEC to get back to us. Have they made any, and have they indicated how long it's going to take this time?
They haven't, and I haven't necessarily reached out to them. Once I send it, I'll reach out to the coordinators that we've been going back and forth with a little bit. Last time was almost 5 years. I hope it doesn't take that long this time. I don't think it will be. I think there's been a lot of light brought on all the local solid waste management plans of all the counties. I know that Saratoga County just finished theirs just the end of last year, and they received their approval of theirs fairly quickly. So
Okay,
I will definitely follow up once I send it off.
thank you. Okay. Were you able to do any more research into the grant application that you mentioned?
No, I'm not. I've been trying to work with the planning department on that. I reached out to Chris Belden, sent me some information, and I see he's on here. I reached out to Wayne Lamothe. I just have not gotten a response back from Wayne yet.
Okay. Do you know, when's the deadline for that application?
I believe November 5th. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Okay.
I think it's 3 p.m. on October 30th.
Okay.
So Wayne is all right with myself putting an application in. Given finding out about the opportunity late in the short deadline, I don't have a formal resolution, but we can prepare that the next meeting, and if we're awarded, there will be another opportunity to accept the award funds if that's acceptable.
Well, given what we just went through with a different one, I would probably prefer to have the committee at least make a motion to authorize submission of the grant application.
Okay.
And then we can retroactively, or you can bring a resolution later to accept the money if we were to actually get any money.
Good boy.
Does that sound okay? All right. Yeah, Kevin.
I just want to, because I want the committee to be aware whatever, this grant is for basically educational purposes. The bottom line is it's if we get awarded it, I just want everybody to be aware there's a 50% match on the county. These, he would pay 50%, and then the county would be on the hook for the other 50%.
Do we have money to pay the 50%?
I don't know that. I don't have that answer for you. And it depends on whether or not we're awarded.
Does it make sense to have Chris apply and see what we get? Or
I think it makes sense to apply for any grant that we can get, but it's up to the committee and the board after that, whether or not we want to accept the grant or go forward with the grant.
okay. Can I have a motion from the committee to let them apply for the grant? Supervisor Hogan and Supervisor Stroud. Any discussion?
Just,
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Pardon me, sorry. Just a clarification, it would be a ratification of the application because the board meeting will be, I think, a month from today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless we bring it through the 6th, we could always do that too.
That would still be after the deadline though.
Yep, so still a ratification.
I'd still like to have this committee know about it though and give it, a thumbs up. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anybody opposed? Okay, that carries. We'll make sure that we get the right paperwork in order. Thank you. Chris, is there anything else you want to bring up at this time? I know you have a different thing we'll bring up next meeting.
I think I'm all set for now. I guess just the clarification. I mean, not to rehash the septic discussion, but I'm not sure that I'm clear as to what the applicability, what this committee is looking for the applicability to be about. Is the waterfront areas, or are we sticking to the waterfront areas?
I think we're going to stick to the waterfront areas as we already have listed and identified now within 250 feet. I'm not hearing people really thrilled about the whole thing. So I think we'll just stick what we've got on paper now and try to massage that to see if we can get consensus around that.
Bring it for a vote. Okay.
As an opt-in program.
And no, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next time we're going to, Chris is going to give us a presentation about benchmarking, what's happening at the county. And Kevin, if you're still listening, thank you for giving your input. Is there anything else? Thanks, Kevin. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Supervisor Simpson, Supervisor Molino on the second, all those in favor.